3D printed airsoft. Is it good? No. It's incredible. I'm going to be talking about the benefits of 3D printing your own airsoft, and today I'm using the Mosquito Beta 2 as the example. I'm going to be covering the cost, the performance, and why 3D printed airsoft is far superior to just buying your typical airsoft the traditional way. And before I begin, I'd like to give a good shout out to Gun Bunny, our group's airsoft tech, for handling all of the internals on this project and also a few other ones coming up, but more on that later. Now, for starters, you're probably thinking, obviously, you need a 3D printer to do this, and I wouldn't recommend buying a 3D printer for the sole purpose of just making one gun. It's a bit like buying a 3D printer to resin print Warhammer. It's not really that cost effective unless you are invested in having the 3D printed hobby on top of the other hobby you already have. However, if you know someone that can 3D print it for you, then by all means, why not? And in terms of cost, 3D printing wise, this barely costed anything. I'm going to estimate about 20 quid. And that's probably including all of my mistakes that I might have made. And I'm not going to include my messing around with carbon filament, because if anyone's seen the other video, we know how that went. A lot of salt on that one. As you can imagine, the most expensive thing for this kit is the internals that you have to buy. For example, the gearbox isn't 3D printed. That is a existing AEG gearbox. The battery, the barrel, and the hop-up unit is pretty much 3D printed. It just consists of a bolt and a nut, which then pushes one of the nubs into the hop-up unit itself to make the hop-up work, but the hop-up unit actually works incredibly well, and it hops 0.3s very nicely. Now, take this total cost as a very, very rough guide, because obviously it depends on what you want to put into your 3D printed airsoft and exactly how much you want to spend. It goes without saying that the body pieces that will be 3D printed are going to be astronomically cheaper than if you were to buy them. And if you don't have access to a 3D printer yourself, then just let me know. I have people all over the UK and a couple in Europe who would be happy to help. Now let's talk about performance. This thing weighs nothing. Like, it's so light. You can easily one-hand it.
Nice, okay.
It doesn't weigh a damn thing. As you can imagine, this is all of the 3D printed parts are so light, and if I wanted to, I could probably make it even lighter by printing with a specifically designed lightweight filament, and I haven't. I've just done PLA+, which in itself is light enough. You're not going to get tired running around with this thing, and it makes play really easy. My reaction times of this are tremendously better than my Full Metal M4 that I've had since I was 12. As you can see, moving around with this thing is just so easy. And I would even argue it probably has better range than my M4, which is at least 5 times the weight. And I'm sure now you're probably thinking, yes, we know it doesn't weigh much, it isn't metal, but doesn't that mean that it isn't very strong and it breaks easily? Haha, you fool. Bearing in mind again that I am a cheap bastard, and because of this, I've only printed it in PLA+. There are stronger filaments available. However, here are some tests that I have done. There we go, that is 90 kilograms of person and a completely fine handguard. So again, bear in mind I'm being really cheap here, and there are much harder filaments than this. I would say we're pretty safe. So I've covered the cost and how it can be significantly cheaper, and I've talked about the performance and how light you can make this thing and yet still have it perform excellently. But why is it better? And it's something more than both of those points put together. I think the thing with airsoft is you often find yourself stuck between either an AK or an M4, and this really changes that. The ability to just 3D print your own is an endless opportunity for interesting and more fun guns. And does it perform better than a normal airsoft gun would? I mean, I would argue it does to an extent. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be as sturdy as a full steel, professionally made and manufactured airsoft gun like some of my other ones, but if something breaks, and it hasn't yet, and I've taken it to the National Airsoft Festival and thrown it through quite a few bushes, I'll just print another bit, and it won't really cost me anything. And if I get bored and I want to change it up, I will just print another piece. It's endlessly customizable. So in the end, it comes down to one very simple reason to me why 3D printing airsoft is far superior than buying it. And it's the same reason that any of us play airsoft in the first place. It's more fun. Why else would you need to do anything for the hobby? It's more fun to have something which is completely customizable and unique to you, and it can be in any way, shape or form that you want, than being restricted by something that already exists. And as these are airsoft guns, not actual guns, YouTube, don't hide this, their shape and size is not influenced by engineering factors which a real steel firearm would be. So if you want some crazy looking thing from Borderlands 4, it's completely possible. So here's my verdict on 3D printing airsoft. If you can do it and you have the 3D printer already, by all means, there's no reason not to. And if you've got friends that want to play airsoft, then you're about to become very popular, as you can make your team's very own custom airsofts, and that is a pretty incredible thing to be able to do. Would I recommend getting a 3D printer solely for this? No. Don't just buy a 3D printer for one project. They're very expensive. There's a lot of stuff that you need with it, including an enclosure, which no one really seems to talk about. This has been an incredible little project, and it has sparked off an even bigger and crazier one. So there's a lot more of this stuff coming. So hit buttons, like, smash button, do the subs, all of that stuff, and I will see you very soon.